Attorney General William Barr released the 4-page summary of his overview of the Mueller report in oh so many terms, basically ruling out that any American had participated in committing, collusion with Russia, and now people are losing their minds and going insane in response to this. And it's kind of funny because I said a while ago, when you look at certain things between Trump and Russia since the election, it just didn't go together. Kind of like how Russia, for example, didn't support the regime change in Venezuela. Trump did. Russia, for example, um, got the U.S. to pull out, or rather, disobeyed the 30-year strong INF treaty. And then this was followed by the U.S. pulling out as well, and kind of ratcheting up tensions on that massive scale. So when you with those two things in particular, among others, it kind of it became more and more comical that people were actually buying into the idea of just this big grand ball conspiracy. Because remember, liberals and Democrats and all kind of people who have a left leaning persuasion often deride Trump as someone that's stupid, as a person who doesn't know what he's doing, is incompetent. So if you think he's that dumb, why would you then believe he was the same mastermind who concocted a um, a strategy to collude with Russia for the election? You can't have it both ways. He can't be stupid and then also be the great conspirator who orchestrated this stealing of this election cycle. Let me say a little bit Dirk. Now, do I believe that Barr covered up the report? I'm leaning more toward that direction, but that's not because of screw Trump or anything as simple as that. Whether you like Sessions or not, and I can tell you by his Senate voting record, I don't. One of the reasons to be upset by him getting yanked was the fact that he disaffected himself from this investigation. So when you have someone like Barr, who's an old timey, you could even see it in his statement that he put out, where all these little weasel words. There is no possible inference to suggest the uh, assertion that's this really scholarly way of speaking, but it's all designed to get around actually elaborating on what the hell was in the paper. Anytime you don't put out the actual report, that already makes me a little unconvinced of your cause. It was the same thing with Kavanaugh, where we get told over and over again there were 6 investigations. When they ask him, "Do you want to do a seventh one that is different from the others and include an investigation into Christine Blasey Ford?" And then they limit it to only being 1 week, and then won't even show us the report. So that's it's that same pattern. Let me see if Dirk has anything he'd like to add. We might not. I wanted to give you the because if you saw the stream from yesterday about like the reason that Saturday streams are always compromised, today shouldn't be of the same issue. So this was really I don't want to say a beneficial thing that Barr waited until Sunday to do this, but it definitely translated easier than if it had happened yesterday, because it could happen and right after that I can get on here and speak about it and give my position and opinion and whatnot. But going back to what I was saying, um, I just love the social media aspect of this, because people, like, all of his supporters are going, "We told you it was a witch hunt, ha 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 ha. Ignore the fact that Trump's campaign manager is going to jail, and ignore the fact that his attorney is going to jail, and ignore the fact that they indicted 12 Russians." Like, we're not stupid. If you just, we can debate whether he himself was the trigger man, but you can't debate that there are Russian ties to people, to high ranking associates of his. That is what it is with Mueller. Yeah, but like, I thought it was crazy how, one of the things I mentioned before when I briefly have talked about him in the past is that this investigation, or just the Mueller probe, whatever you want to call it, has led a historically crappy or office holder, right? So FBI director and the FBI in general, to now be revered by liberals because they think it's going after Trump. It's like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Like, no, this isn't your friend. This is a group that throughout history has worked against the will of the people. And it's like, you guys really don't get that? Okay, all right. I'm pretty sure the only time the FBI was actually on the side of the common man and not whoever the high-ranking official was probably when I know Johnson had Hoover investigate the lynchings in the South during the '60s, late '60s, mid '60s, that period. Like around the time of Selma. But other than that, I can't think of any other time where they were assisting toward individuals, like, actually showing integrity. It's always been about covering up for the guy at the top because they all scratch each other's backs. So, that I'm happy to see this institution get its reputation of integrity a little blemished by the thing with Barr, and even then, it still isn't going to matter because they'll just keep saying Mueller was such a person with high integrity and was working on for the will of the people, and evil AG Barr decided to keep this covered, which Barr probably did have a position in making sure this thing didn't come out, but what they're failing to realize is that you still are working with a bunch of idiots, like people that do not actually believe in integrity. So whether it was him or Sessions or whoever else, you would have had the same result where something happens with the Mueller report and then we don't get the full thing. That's a running theme of just like there are larger implications here that people are not even going to discuss. We're not going to talk about, wow, this report is being hidden from us and we need to have a transparent government that lists the various affiliates of our office holders and high ranking officials. You won't hear that. All they're going to do is talk about the Trump cover up. We're going to hear that for the next 30 years. Get ready. Didn't FBI or CIA get Chelsea Manning put in solitary confinement like this month too? Yeah, wow. That's another. So much stuff happens, and then people wonder why I hate the mainstream media. You didn't hear a single thing about Chelsea Manning on any of these networks, even though this whistleblower got completely demonized when her particular outing as a person that revealed aspects of the government happened, and yet none of these organizations talk about it. That's exactly right, Dirk. I completely forgot about it when I was talking about their historical problems. They have contemporary problems too. But that's my point, that like you can't expect them to betray or otherwise have a majority of the people working there all in some cabal to make sure that the Americans are protected. They don't care about Americans. They care about their paychecks, staying in office, and watching out for each other. It's the same old cop buddy mentality. So it's funny to watch them, actually convince themselves that something matters or that their covering up is somehow going to be beneficial toward the people. It's amusing. But like I said, you have two different sides here, and it's not really up to people actually trying to make sense. So Dirk says, but let's just focus on Russia, blah blah blah, Trump, blah puppet, breaking news, free click/views. Yeah, I would love to have a channel like that where every time there's a video, I have some outrageous thumbnail, and then it's in cap locks, and you click it, and then it's me speaking, and then you get a little clip of CNN. I would love to do, because I definitely would get more views. I would have the clip of some other organization just speaking this whole time and me talking about how stupid they are. I hate that you can't edit streams like that. I could play something on here, but you wouldn't be able to see it. And I don't want to just have like it be a radio version where you're listening to it and then I'm just sitting here staring into the camera. This feels weird. I'm just saying. But yeah, going back to what I was stating. Um, so get ready for retroactive, people who were defending this thing are like saying, well, before, oh, I knew that Russiagate had nothing to it. That's why I kept saying Mueller is coming for months. Like all these different news organizations look even dumber. And I just wish people would pay attention. Like, one of the biggest gripes we have here is that there are so many significant news stories that when you see them on TV and they flash for like 2 minutes, you don't really get the significance of them. The reason I bring up the INF Treaty is because that is something that was around for over a quarter of a century. That meant the U.S. and Russia had barred each other from being able to, make these nuclear weapons. And just now, under the president who supposedly is buddies with Trump, oh, we're going to scrap that. That's why it was a big deal. This major treaty gets revoked after all the different presidents of both parties that had come between Reagan and Trump, and no one wanted to really think about that, or seem to be talking about that as much as I thought they should have. I saw one editorial for NY Mag, and that was about it. Also, they could keep sucking off news about Mueller. Oh, Mueller, indictments, Cohen testimony. And then you actually watch the testimony, you actually see the report get released. And it's something that none of us even really were shocked or surprised by, or it's completely underwhelming. Load says MSNBC should be severely. Oh, man. Hey, Load, a little bit of a warning. YouTube has like this family friendly thing going on. So anytime you swear, it automatically withholds your comment. So, I'm not saying you can't because I don't care, but they like to do that. That's their way of making sure all the little kids can watch this. MSNBC should be severely and very publicly. Wow, they actually didn't block that one. They were the first pusher of the Russiagate thing. I don't know if it is for every channel, but every time I do a stream and somebody swears or uses the 7 words you can't say on TV, it always does that. It's weird. MSNBC should be severely and publicly. Oh yeah, they should be condemned to the highest degree. They were the number one pusher of the Russiagate thing. Pusher. MSNBC is an embarrassment. I had no idea. Thanks for the info. I had no idea they were an embarrassment. Thanks for the info. That's my way of taking what you said and twisting it to fit my own agenda. And I can say you colluded with me to make sure that the your comments was read in full and then parodied. So going back to what I was saying with this story, what I find even more comical is that now, as we get, because what should happen after this is that now we can say, okay, um, realistically, the Democrats only control the House, so they can't do anything to really like get a law passed because you need both chambers to pass a law, and then you have to override the president's veto. So what should happen now is they say, okay, we're going to focus for the next, uh, what 21 months on just actually governing, passing laws, single payer, Green New Deal, whatever, just anything you can think of that appeals to our base, kind of like how Trump appeals to his base by having all those rallies. Instead, you're going to get more Sunday morning talk show whining and crying by, you remember the Democratic caucus chair, the one that I hate, I don't like because he crapped on Bernie with the like NRA conspiracy theory, Jeffries or whatever. Trump is a Russian asset and he violated the terms and services of the American executive. Man, get out of here. Again, I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. We're not going to hear a single thing about what new laws they're trying to get or any actual policy substance. It's going to be more conspiracy. Like they had an interview with the House Minority Leader back when he was the House Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy. Let me say a little envoy, and he was being interviewed after the midterms, after they lost the House, and he said something to the effect of, the Democrats are going to continue running on investigation. That's exactly what they're doing. And again, said it before, I don't like either party, but whenever a member of either party says something that makes sense, I'll give them credit for it. You will not hear a single thing from Pelosi or Schumer on the need to now start talking about what we can actually do between eventually getting the same, because it's going to eventually flip again. They always do. These chambers have been, back and forth every 3 or 4 election cycles. So that you won't hear a single either of them say, "Hey, instead of sitting here being crybabies about the report probably being covered up, let's actually go back to governing." Instead, they're going to go, "Well, we know people are saddened, but we need unity, and this president has done blah 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 blah," and then they're going to be surprised when they continue to not actually be known for doing anything. Like there's a reason why when you go on any of these, you listen to any of the commentators, like the mainstream ones, right? Not the ones on the computer, or any of the Democrats that are in Congress. They can never give you any law besides Obamacare that Pelosi passed, and they can never tell you anything that Schumer did to where he would even be qualified to be the Senate minority leader or the Democratic leader. Like at nothing whatsoever other than that one law in 30 years out of both of them. Losers. All right, Load says the Dem establishment loved the Russiagate hysteria because it meant they didn't have to be held accountable They didn't have to come up with any ambitious policy agenda like universal health care. Yeah, it was their way of appealing because again, we've been over Trump's approval rating, right? But the thing is, with any president, you're always going to have a solid 30-40% that just say screw you. It was their way of saying we don't need to appeal to these people on anything other than just anti-Trump. It's literally a sequel to HRC's campaign where okay, we're running against this guy who has high unfavorability. Let's discount the fact that I'm also unpopular. So let's now start talking about his cheating on his wives and his rhetoric and all this crap that really is inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. Let's see. Big Dewey says change my word. Oh, I was trying to figure out. So what is he? Who is this? Yeah, I would have had no idea. I thought you named yourself after the Malcolm in the Middle character. That was your way of hinting to the rest of us that you were youthful and full of vigor. I was not even going to say anything. He just came in here to give a greeting and then disappear. Mm. I had intended to just to kind of let you know, do a stream of me watching this person playing this game, but they're not apparently. If they do stream, it's apparently going to be later today. So maybe I'll do it live. Maybe I'll do it at some other point. Just kept it because of my. Oh, I'm sure he's very flattered. I don't mean that as a joke or to mock you or anything. So before anyone even thinks of typing that, dude, I love how my rhetoric is like walking into like every time I open my mouth, I just picture I'm walking into a minefield where you better not say that or somebody will cut that out and post it and go, see, he said this about this person. So you just can't win no matter what you do. Like I could literally make a stream where I just don't say anything and it would be more positively received or have like the least amount of like alternate way of phrasing what I have to say, like those alternate interpretations where someone takes what someone says and gives a new context or different meaning. That's exactly what goes on here. Like there was one person on Twitter who said something to the effect of to Trump, "I can't wait until you're gone." And they're you can clearly see when you go on their page and you look at the other tweets they have, they're talking about him leaving office. And then some idiot came on there and was like, "You want Trump to get assassinated?" It's like, no, can you relax? Like I know why you guys do it because you want to believe that there's no middleman, that you either love Trump or you want him to die and all this other evil stuff. But a lot of people just do not like him being in office, hence why he said, "I can't wait until you're gone." So that's their way of attempting to disenfranchise people from speaking out. By purposefully screwing with what they're actually saying, just like the Ilhan Omar thing. Person says the Israeli government is corrupt. They kill Palestinians day after day, and most people who objectively look at that could probably figure that out. Um, and then she gets called anti-Semitic. Doesn't say anything about hating Jews or Hitler was right or any nonsense like that. But just by simply stating, "Hey, this right-wing government, under the Likud party, they've got problems, and that includes violating the same human rights that they hate the Nazis for violating of Jews back in the 40s. And they used the Jews of the 40s to make an excuse for the few evil Jews that are running the Israeli government. But they're not evil because they're Jewish. So that's already not anti-Semitism. You're simply bringing up the fact that these people hide behind their religion and the historical oppression that no one's doubting that was done to that members of that religion decades ago to cover up their own evils and ways of discriminating in the modern era. All right. Envoy says we are in the hyper offended culture because all of us think too highly of our opinions. Yeah, pretty much. Just like this stuff with this voice actor, right? There's a person who I swear if you were to think of maybe the top 100, like every show and just fandom has its people who are kind of the bigger known ones. If you thought of the top 100 people for that particular fandom, you wouldn't even think of this person. And they go on their page and they feel the need to announce that they're not going to a convention because Vic is going, and then they're surprised when people say, how's the Malcolm theme go? You're not so big. And then they block like it must have been 40 or 50 people. Like I was on a thread where me and these other people all were like, "Hey, did you get blocked?" Yeah, me too, me too, me too. And I love Twitter blocking because the way it's set up is stupid. Because if you block someone, you can still see their page anytime you want, but they can't. But then if the person makes another account, they can see your stuff. Like that's what's so funny to me because like I wasn't talking to the person or really like say anything to them at all. So the whole point should have been to get rid of people who were prolifically messing with you, and you literally just overreacted to any little thing anyone said. So like I can just use my other account and lurk. So that accomplished nothing. Oh, let me do the evil laugh. Mm. Big Dewey says, I have been out of the news lately. There is too much diarrhea coming out of an ankle. Freezy, that no one can do anything about. Rise and other VS getting too much. Well, the thing is that I don't doubt the hate crimes rising or any of that stuff like that. I'm fairly convinced by polls. But what I don't like is that people who don't like Trump try to use it as examples of him having some influence when the fact of the matter is, no matter what you think of him, he can't make someone hold a firearm. He can't make them, like writing in this stupid stuff on the computer. I think that if he hadn't have started saying fake news, most people probably wouldn't say it. That is true, but he's not in control of them saying that. So it's just I get when I say that a lot of stuff I say, I get accused by people who don't like him of being one of his supporters. And then when I say, "Oh no, let's talk about how horrible he's been in office," I get accused of being, some Democrat. So you just can't win. The villain, no matter what way you spin it. I wonder if Load was amused by the evil laugh or that whole like mention of what happened on Twitter because that was funny. They went on a blocking just party. Literally a whole thread of people saying, "I got blocked too, me too, yep, yep, same here." Oh man, yeah. Like I said, these websites. But what's funny is that this person kind of goes to what I was saying yesterday, where a lot of these people go on to Twitter. They're on YouTube, right? And they don't say anything negative or nasty or really in the way of controversial on YouTube. But then they'll go on Twitter and they'll say all these evil things about people. So, for example, this person on their page, it's literally just re-uploading a bunch of like hero stuff, right? Just stuff they stole because you're not supposed to be able to take something that another person made and put that up there. But they take this stuff and they post this there, and that's their whole YouTube page. But then when you go on their Twitter, they're talking about, "I don't want to be by that creep," and they wrote something about it's there's no way that dozens of people could be lying. If you don't see why that statement is all the more reassuring of the fact that we live in the twilight zone, I don't know what else to tell you. Because I could easily make a pact with all 8 of the people that are in here and say, "Hey, look, we're going to get with a couple of more people and we're going to start a theory that the sky is actually, if you go up to the sky, right, and you reach like the center of the earth, you can actually start peeling it and there's going to be some orange underneath it. So the sky is really orange, but you just have to peel it." I could have 12 other people sign on to say that. So, you can go out and look and see that the sky is blue. But by me having all those people under your logic, that means what I said about the sky being orange must be correct. Because why would all of us lie? Oh my God, people just they say some of the stuff that's insane. Oh yeah, I don't know which group you're referring to, but if you're talking about the political stuff, yeah, the Trump supporters want everyone like. So here's the thing, and I was going to do a video on this. They had Rokana on Fox earlier today, and they put his clip up on YouTube, and it's got like half likes, half dislikes, which is actually much better than I thought. I thought it would just be completely disliked because Fox is the epicenter of Republican love and all that crap. So he goes on there and he starts talking about China and how Trump is wrong on this issue, right? You go in the comment section and no one. I'm reading stuff about his ties to the Chinese government, him, some racial nonsense too about his ethnicity, but nowhere do I see anyone actually addressing what he's stating. But then if you go and watch the clip of Gabbard, right, the Democrats running for president, and her talking about right Trump was to not go to war with Syria or to otherwise want to pull out of there, it's a bunch of likes and people talking about how smart and great she is. I'm like, no, you guys only think someone's smart or they're what they have to say is worth hearing if it's bootlicking or otherwise supporting Trump. If it's the slightest critique at all, you lose your minds. And I keep bringing this up, but look what happened to Graham. He gives this little stupid speech about how great Kavanaugh is and how horribly he's being treated and wah 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 wah. And all these people are going, yeah, man, that was great. Yeah, he really stood up for Kavanaugh. Woohoo! But then after he condemns Trump for, and in my opinion, rightfully announcing the pull out of Syria, then they all turn on him. In 2 months, I saw that. So again, that's the problem with the Trump supporters, and the problem with the Democrats is that again, they literally love anyone that just says something bad about him. It doesn't matter who that person is. You could have Ted Bundy come back from the dead and say something about Trump, and they would love him. He may have been a serial killer, but he was right on Trump. He's all right in my book. Envoy says, you look at CNN and Fox, they both want to spin in order to justify their position. They don't tell the story objectively. Both sides will play up race or sexism or whatever when it suits them. Bootlickers. Yeah, they all have a core group of people they know watch them, and they just play to them no matter what. So, it's a never-ending cycle, and all day is just going to be them talking about this Mueller thing. And as we've been over it earlier in the stream, we clearly have loads of different stories that can be discussed. Not to steal Lode's name, but there are loads of different stories that can be talked about instead of the same couple of ones over and over again. But hey, we can't expect them to actually care about discussing the news or anything on news networks. That's crazy. Wait a second. You want these major networks to talk about major stories like the U.S. bombing 7 countries and wanting regime change in Venezuela and pulling out of treaties with Iran and Russia and trying to have a peace talks with North Korea that go nowhere. You want that to be covered on a day-to-day basis because it's constantly being updated? Outrageous. So you can't win with these networks because they know who's watching them, and they know that they can get away with being lazy and talking about one thing all day. Just like this Mueller thing, right? If I was a news network, it would probably get about this many minutes of coverage, 30 minutes for that one day. That's it. We talk about everything else that's going on, but they don't do that. Just like they had the story of Trump reversing the sanctions on North Korea that the Treasury Department put up, and you won't hear them talk about that. You'll just hear Mueller, 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 Mueller. That's all I hear. I've been hearing for 22 months. Mueller, 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 Mueller. See, I remember when Trump supporters flipped their lids at AOC, they went bonkers. Well, a good chunk of them are turned on by her. That's why they keep putting all those little donkey images up. Like if someone is unattractive, you don't need to stick their picture next to something over and over again. And then most of the people who are talking about she looks are so cowardly that when you actually look at their profiles on any social media website, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter, whether it's wherever the hell, they don't even have their picture up. So, you're sitting over here acting like you're some Adonis when the whole reason you hate this woman should be because you disagree with her political positions and she's a politician. Just like with the FCC chairman. I don't like him because of him trying to gut net neutrality. I've never said anything about the way he looks or any of that crap. Doesn't matter. Same thing with Trump's economic advisor, Kudlow. I don't like him because he wants to bootlick for, I mean, pretty much anything, but mostly a lot of the austerity that we've seen in the U.S. for the last 40 years and pretend like it's now suddenly rapidly improving and all this propaganda crap. But you'll never catch me talking about how he looks. It doesn't matter. Like that's how you know his supporters are petty. They go after stuff that is not significant. And the only time I've ever made fun of the way one of his people looked, other than Trump himself, and it's only because I got pissed off that one time with that Syria video, was when Fox did a live stream for his attorney for Barr, right, the Attorney General, and somebody in the comment section, and this is at the start of the stream, right, said, "Hello, Newman." Just started like, oh my god. Just thinking about that character and how long it's been since I even thought about that show, it was great. It was so accurate. But yeah, we're probably gonna hear about how great Mueller was and how his integrity ridden investigation was covered up by the evil attorney general, and Barr's going to be made out to be a villain for the rest of his life. So it's all great. But my thing is, I'm glad it turned out the way it did, because I want, if we're going to get an actual ending to Trump's story, I want it to be him fairly losing the election. I don't want to have some crap where he gets, let's say, found guilty of conspiring, and then his supporters go for like the next couple of decades. I remember when Trump ran for president in 2016. I know there's no way he would have lost in 2020 if he hadn't have been taken out of office the year. I don't want to have him turn into some folk hero over this crap. So I'm glad that he is still in office, and most likely will still be in office when the thing is over. Who is this? They want you to get over it, then they come over. They come to see what you have to say. But do you see how the words get taken out of context? Where it's like you say to yourself, "I don't know what way it could have been." And a lot of these people who are getting upset are just mad it didn't turn out the way they wanted it to. And I've said before, I'm generally indifferent to this whole thing. Envoy said, I don't even know how you survive on Twitter with all the political jargon. Well, with me, I just have people I'm not following muted. I've only blocked maybe like 4 people. And that was before I did the muting thing, because I just got tired of those notifications. So they can write stuff back and see whatever I write. I just can't, I don't read what they write back to me. I know they write something back. I just live with the mystery, because I've interacted enough with people on social media to know that a majority of the reactions just aren't worth reading. Like, one of the reasons I even like doing streams, in spite of stuff like that happening, where you have some random douchebag come and write something out of nowhere that's dumb, and it really has no basis in reality, is because there's a group of people who are sensible and that I can look forward to actually interacting with about this topic. So it's all good. Yeah, that's my point. That, like, when I brought up the Vic thing, it was based around that whole reason that if you go on the consensus forums or on Twitter, it's all a bunch of people who are basically saying guilty until proven innocent, and they're all basing it around what someone has to say rather than what an actual fact is. So it's that same kind of mob rule thing of just you're convicted prior to actually having a court or some just law is now in the hands of people on the internet, and because anyone can get on the internet, it's even more dangerous. Your favorite word to use now? Oh yeah, well, again, it's like the Red Scare. They think if they call you again, here's the trick: if you want to make someone on the internet be quiet or otherwise have a higher chance of silencing them in mass, you come up with a term or a word that has no substantiated meaning, and then you just apply it to anyone that disagrees with you. So, for example, when you had Jamie using that on people who would talk about her, um, that if people said, "Hey, I've had trouble with, I don't know, chicks, but I agree with you," she would never have called them that. Might not have consoled them, but she definitely wouldn't have said that to them if they weren't expressing a position that she didn't agree with. But look at that comment. Load, like, did you see that comment? I'm crying by talking about the story that all the people on are like typing out and whining about because it didn't turn the way they wanted it to. Like, think how insane. Like, oh, Hey, Twilight Zone. The person who's sitting here and calmly discussing something and actually mocked one of the congressmen for sitting here and and whining about it on his interview is the person crying. Oh man, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. But that's what I'm saying. Like when I was telling you about how where are the good people or where's my crew at, and like remember that stream from I think it was last week. This is what the stuff I'm talking about, where people who actually want to hear what I have to say and regularly show up, nowhere to be seen for the most part, and then like someone you've never heard of before that clearly doesn't agree with the positions you've espoused on your channel just shows up out of nowhere. Like I don't get that at all. And I've given you multiple examples where it's like it's just people coming out of nowhere and writing something that again shows that they're opposed to the views that are espoused here, and yet showing up anyway. I think that's weird because again, I didn't use any tags. I don't have Mueller's picture, so you know this isn't like oh you click here because you thought someone was streaming the news, like an act like CNN or their kind of coverage. So it's literally just let me see what this random person has to say. Watch as I demean your opinion while coming to click and see your opinion. Oh man, the social media era, man. People would love to go out of their way to get enraged. Yeah, but like everywhere I go, it's just people look like they're so hypocritical because they tell you this person doesn't matter or that your view doesn't matter, but then you respond to it and you come and look for it. Remember, this isn't like Twitter where I go on Trump's page and I post something. This person looked for this video or this stream and then waited long enough to see what I had to say. Like, no one thinks that's weird. Oh man, this oof. We need a poll of like how many people online just lack common sense and really any actual depth and purpose for going on here. Because again, when I go on YouTube, I watch stuff I like. I don't go on Levin or Shapiro or Hannity's crap, and I go and watch people I actually agree with and value the opinion of. I don't value the opinion of Hannity or Levin or any of these other conservative commentators. So thus, I don't go on their pages. But apparently, this person valued my opinion enough to make an account with no picture like everybody else to say something dumb before getting yanked. Although this is literally a common occurrence on here. Like if I upload something, I always expect whatever comments there to be just the complete polar opposite of what I said. And I say to myself, where did you come from? Like again, when I did the Rand Paul vaccinations video, two people came on there with like disagreeing with my position or whatever and doing it in like a relatively rude way. I'm like, who are you? I don't get it. What happened to Envoy? I hope he didn't go to eat something. I can't imagine just looking for stuff to get mad at or disagree with. Who has time for that? Apparently they do. Remember, a content creator, especially if you do, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but if you do something like the show, right, I have to draw that out, I have to write it, I have to edit, I have to hunt down VAs. So there's a lot involved that, it's more time consuming than actually putting it up and then promoting it online. These are people who have nothing to do, and they're upset that you have something to do. They're upset that you have people who actually come here and want to hear what you have to say. And they're mad that I apparently won't engage with them. That's why they keep making all these different profiles. I mean, they're making me out to be the star. Like, I always love when it's only a few views on something and somebody writes some comment that's supposed to make me feel bad. Like, why are you here? You don't like me? Go away. Oh my God. But I know what it's like to be a commentator on YouTube. I just don't know what it's like to actively try. Like, I guess because they figure that since, unlike a lot of other people on here, I actually try to read and be receptive to an audience. They think I'm gonna like give them the time of day. I don't know. Maybe. I think they're more likely to get a legitimate response from Trump than they are from me. It's like we actually remember screen names, so we know who the good ones are that we should respond to and who the bad ones are that we shouldn't. And I don't need a list written down anywhere. I know it all in here, so it's even more comedic. So I'm pretty much at the end of my rope when it comes to discussing this. I'm glad that it's finally over. I'll see you later, Load. That this investigation is done, and hopefully we do end up finding out what really happened eventually. Maybe this is what really happened. I don't know, but I'm not going to be upset because something I figured wasn't the case turned out to not be the case. And as for this person that is so excited, or rather was so hoping for American officials to have been caught in mass colluding with Russia to ruin his elections, his democratic system. Are you out of your damn mind? Thank you. Have a good day.